Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about timelines and how we can have this type of timeline which we can show our items based on the date for our viewers. As you can see here, we got some rows which, for example, showing this stage. This is how we got our stage to be each one in separate bar, and we got some detail when we hovering on them. As same as that, we got this managers and our work modes right here. And here in our little box, we got the start date, finish date, and duration for our work. And as same as this, we can have this type of timelines too, which in this cases, we got some different view, but exactly those data that we got. So let's jump into our code. First of all, here we have empty VS Code window with no files inside of our folder. Of course, first we need to have our index.html as our base file, and here we're going to use simple HTML template with the title to be timeline. And as same as previous ones, here we need to have one tag which we put our timeline inside of this using our JavaScript. For better understanding this part and this video, it's better first you see the Google Charts videos, especially related to the table part. So if you haven't watched that, I'm going to give you the link in the description and card at the top corner so you can know all things about Google Tables. Please watch that first and then come back here. So here, let's say we have div with the ID of timeline. And after this, of course, we need to have import the CDM for Google Charts, which here again, I'm going to give you this link of Google Charts CDN in the description for you. After this one, we're going to create another file. Let's make the name timeline.js. And of course, we need to add that one to our HTML code too. So we use this script tag and we make the source./timeline.js. And I'm going to use live server, which is real-time extension for VS Code, which by using this, any change that we're going to have inside of our code, it's going to be appear and render in our web page too. So let's put this away for a second and close this side of our VS Code window, and let's jump into our JavaScript. As same as previous ones, first we need to have two necessary lines for our Google Charts to start. So here we're going to have this Google.charts.load, and here again we're going to use the word current right here. Then we got our object, which here we define our package to what we want to load. As you saw in the video about Google Tables, here for importing table, we use this table right here. For having charts, we use this core charts right here. And for having timelines, we need to import this timeline package from our Google Charts. But because here we want to use table at first to structure our data and then turn them into the timeline, so here we're going to have this table 1, 2. After these one, of course, we're going to set our unload callback function. So again, we're going to have this Google.charts, then this set unload callback, and then here, let's say make the name of our callback function to draw charts. And here we need to create our function right here. So we have this function with the name of draw charts, which receives no parameters and have its body. First thing that we have is creating data for our timeline or table. Here, first we're going to create table, and then we're going to convert that into timeline. So as you know from last video and tables video, here we need to have this object of data, which we are going to use the class of Google.visualization, and here we need to use this data table. And after this, here we got our data.addColumn, which here we define the structure for columns of our table. What I mean from that, you can see here we got our simple table which here we have got our columns. So here we first going to create our columns, then add rows for our table. And here we want to define the name for our column and what type that we want here. For example, in this case, this is a string column with the name of person. Here is age column with data type of number. So as well as this one, we're going to create our own tables columns too. Because we're going to create timeline, here we're going to have 4 different columns, which first one is going to be from the type of string, and the name is going to be the category. The second one is again going to be string, but the name is going to be, for example, the state, for example, and then we're going to have 2 other columns, which these items type is going to be date, which first one is going to be the start date, and the second one is going to be the end date. And after we have these one, it's time to add our rows and our actually data into the table. So here we're going to have this data that adds rows, and inside of this we got our 2D array, which each array inside of that is going to be 1 row. And pay attention, here we're going to import with this order of first is going to be our category, second is going to be our state, then the start date, and the end date. Just like this. So let's comment this out so we can see all of the structure always here on the top, and let's add our items. Let's say here we're going to create table and actually timeline about how we're going to manage our project, which is a software project. So for the start, let's say here we're going to have 3 categories. First one is going to be the stage, which defines on which stage we are, for example, the planning, design, backend, frontend, or other things. Then after this one, let's say we got another one, which in this category, we're going to show the managers for our project. And then at the last, let's say we got another one, which this one tells us about work mode that we are working on the project. So by setting these one, let's add these little ones here too, and have other items. For example, here for the state, we have our first stage to be planning. And here in the manager, let's say we got manager 1 right here, and here in the work mode, let's say at the first we start with office mode, which this means all of the employees and persons working on the project are going to be in office. After this one, we're going to have our start date, which we're going to use our date class right here and use that to create our date object. So here we got our new, and here we can use this date and pass the date that we want. For example, let's say we want our start date to be 2024's first month, first day. And actually, let's say we got the same date for all of these because all of these are going to be in different categories. And after these one, we're going to have another new date, which here we're going to pass the date that this item has finished. For example, the date that our planning for the project has ended. For example, let's say this took only 1 month for us, so we use 2024, second month, and again first day. For our manager, let's say here again we got our 2024 year right here. Let's say our manager 1 have responsibility for this project until our 3rd month first day, and let's say we work at the office as same as this manager has been around. So again 2024, 3rd month, and then first day. So let's say we got another items here, just like this, which here you can see we got 5 stage category, 3 manager category, and 3 work mode category. And here we got this planning, design, backend, frontend, publish, and here we got our 3 managers. And at the work mode, we got this office, remote, and office again. And here in dates, you can see we got some results, which all of the start dates are going to be before our end dates. And here you can see that all of the start dates on the next stage is going to start exactly when our previous stage has finished. For example, we got this 2024 Q1. Here again, we got that one. Again, we're going to see that one coming right here until the last one about our this category, which is this publish. Then move on to the manager part and manager category, which here again, we start from the actual date that we start the project until we have ended the project right here. You can see that we got that date for the ending right here too. And the same thing is going to be in our work mode too. After we got these items right here, we're going to select tag to import our table inside. So here, let's say we got another div right here with the ID of table. And here in our JavaScript, we're going to target that. So we got this table objects right here, which here we're going to use the class inside our Google.visualization. And here we got this table, which here we're going to select that one. So we use this document.getElementById and we pass the ID of table right here. And after this one, of course, we're going to have this table object right here. And then we're going to use this draw method, which here we're going to pass this data into our table. And by having these items and these codes, you can see if we bring our code and web page right here, we got our table right here. And let's have some options for this table too. So we add our object of options right here. And let's say we want the width to be 100%. And now if we bring our table right here, which here you can see we got our category, state, start date, end date, and how all of these are created and have been in their places. But as you know, we're here to code the timeline and not the table. And for creating timeline, we're going to use exactly this syntax until end of these data items. And we're going to change some things here so we can have both of the table and the timeline at the same time because we have imported both of them right here. So here at the last, this time, instead of targeting this tag for the table and creating object using this table class that we got here in our Google CDN and object, we're going to target our timeline tag, which is going to be, actually this needs to be T. And here we need to use again this new Google.visualization. And here instead of table, we're going to use this timeline. And here again, we're going to use this document.getElementById. And the ID for the timeline is going to be this timeline. And after this one, again, we're going to use this timeline object that we created and use this draw method that we got inside of that. And we're going to pass this data into our object. And now this time, if we bring our web page right here, you can see that we got our timeline here below of our table, which here you can see it has separate based on the category that we got. For example, in our case, we got this stage, manager, and work mode. So in the stage, we got our planning, which here, if we hover on this planning, for example, you can see that we got this box appearing and pops up. And here we can see the start date, end date, and the duration, which in this case, for example, it's going to be 1 month. If we come in design, you can see again, we got those results. If we come to this backend, you can see, for example, the duration is going to be 3 months and going on. And because we have 3 categories here in Manager 1, we got these different items as well as these other managers and work modes too. So now let's get rid of this table 1 by just commenting these 2 lines out. And now we're going to have only our timeline here in our web page. But as you expect, we're not going to use this random colors and random design that we got with our timelines. And we're going to change this into our theme. And for how we can do this, of course, we're going to have this options objects right here, which here we can define settings for our timeline. And here, after we passed our data, we need to pass this options object right here too. So because we want to have both of the code and timeline at the same time, I'm going to use this separating mode, which here we got our web page and here we got our code. The first thing that we're going to talk about is about width of our timeline. And here, for having that, we're going to have this width property inside of our object, and we can pass this whatever thing that we want. For having some things in pixel, we just need to pass the number here. For example, if we have 500 pixel, you can see that we got this 500, and this is some different because I have zoomed this a little bit, and if I reset that, you can see that we got actual 500 right here. But if you want to use, for example, percentage right here, you can use this string and pass, for example, 100% right here. And just as same as this, we can have control of our height too. And here, for example, if we use this 50 pixel right here, you can see that we got very less things to show. We got this 150. You can see that we got some of them. And if we have, for example, 200, you can see that we got all of the items that we need. Another thing that we can have is alternating row style property, that by using this, we're going to pass the Boolean value of 1 or 0, which is as same as true or false. And if we make this 1, for example, you can see that we got our default row. But if we make this 0, you can see we no longer have that highlighted row on our manager row. So if we make this 1, pay attention that here our manager row's color is going to be a little different. And basically it's going to make these timeline rows colors change one in between. After this, you can see that here we got these little gaps on ending every stage on every category in our timeline. And to avoiding that and have these two items, for example, to be exactly next to each other and remove this gap, we're going to have this avoid overlapping grid line property. And here again, this is going to receive Boolean value from us, and if we make this 0 or false, you can see that we no longer have those gaps between of our items. After this, we're going to talk about the coloring our timeline. For example, let's change the background color that we have. And for that, we're simply going to have this background color property right here, and we can pass whatever color that we want. And you can see that has changed the color for us. And of course, you can use any color that you want. For example, here you can pass the hex code for your color and it's going to be applied. But in this case, we don't want anything for the color actually, so we make that comment. Then for changing the color for these items that we got right here, we're going to use this colors property right here, which is going to receive array from us. And what color we're going to pass here is going to be color for our items. And we can have multiple color by passing many items. For example, let's say here at the first, we're going to have this red color right here. You can see all of our items color has been red. And if we have these little gap between of our items, you can see this can be very pretty in some cases too. But if you want another color for this, let's say you want another green right here, you can see by passing this green, we're going to have all of the colors in the order red, green, red, green, red, green, and just as same as this going on. And it's going to be repeat these colors. The first one is going to be red, second green, third red, fourth green, and going on. And if we have another one, for example, blue right here, you can see we got that with our three colors. We got red, green, blue, again red, green, blue, and going on. And of course, we can have some other colors. For example, let's say here we got this purple, and let's say we got another orange right here. You can see that we got all of the colors appearing as we put right here. After these items, you can see here we can come, and by hovering on these items, we got this little box which shows details about our items for us. And for making that one disappear, we're going to have another property with the name of enable interactivity. And here, this one is going to receive another Boolean value from us. If we make this, for example, number 1 and true, we got these items. And if we make that number 0 and false, you can see we can't see that little box about our items right here. After this item, we're going to change these fonts and labels for our timeline too. And for having those one, here we're going to have this timeline property right here, which is going to receive object from us. And inside of this object, we got another property, which is this bar label style. And again, this one is going to receive another object, which here we can define the font for our bar labels. For example, here we got this font name property right here, which if we pass this mono space right here, and we got some mistake here we need to have this label. You can see now these items font has been changed. And as same as this, we can change the font size too. So here we got this property right here, and here we can pass the pixel that we want our font size to be. For example, if we want those to be in 15, you can see this is how it's going to be shown to us. After this item, we're going to put comma right here and come into our timeline object. And here we got another settings that is very useful, which you can see that here we got this color template right here, but it's going to make the colors for us by each item, as you see right here. For example, red, green, blue, purple, orange. Then it comes here, make this red, make this green, blue comes here to continue the template that we gave that. Here we got another purple and orange. And for having all of these same rows to have same color, we got another property here, and pay attention, that's in the timeline object, which is this color by row label. And here, if we make this to number 1 or 2, you can see this time all of the rows has their own color, which you can see the first one is going to be this red, second one is going to be this green, blue, and going on. And if we have the 4th row and 5th row, we would have the 4th one to the purple and the last one to the orange. But after we got this color by row label, we got another property, which is this group by row label. Here, if we make this number 1, you can see that we got our default timeline right here. But if we make this 0 or false, you can see how it has changed. So let's fix the height, and here let's make this, for example, 1800. So we got all of the height that we need. You can see here, this time, we got each item and each state on different row. And it's not going to collapse and make all of the states to show in the one row and show everyone's different row for itself. But in our case, we want all of them to be grouped by our row labels. So we got this type of timeline. Another thing that we can change right here, again, inside of our timeline, we're going to have another property, which is this row label style. And what we can do right here, pay attention, this is object, and inside of this, again, we can define the font and change the look for our typings too. If we want to change the font name, for example, here we got our font name simply here, and we can pass what thing that we want. For example, for the test, let's again put mono space right here. You can see that we got that type of font right here. We got this font size to define the size of our font. Let's say we want these to be in 10 pixel right here. And at the last, we can have this color. So we decide what color we want them to show. Let's say we want them to be this blue, for example. You can see now we got them in this blue color. And of course, you can have any color that you want. And let's make this as default font right here. And another thing that you can have here, for example, if you want your font to be bold, you pass this bold and pass this one here, which you can do exactly this thing with our bar label styles right here. You can see you can make them bold too and change these however that you want. After these item right here, after we got our row label style, we're going to have another item right here, which is this show bar labels, which as you expect, if we make this number 1, we got this result right here. But if we make this 0, you can see we don't have those labels on our items right here, which again, we're going to have this to be number 1 and we want to see them. And as same as this, we got this settings for our row labels too. So we got exactly this, but instead of this bar, we got this row. And here, if we make this one 0, you can see we don't have those row labels near to our timelines anymore, which again, we use this to be 1. And at the last, let's say you want all of your items to be in single color. So what you can do here, you can have this single color property right here inside of your options and timeline object, and here you can pass what thing that you want. For example, here if we make this to be purple, you can see all of our items has been changed to the purple. And pay attention, this purple is not because of this, and that's because of this color. So let's make this gray, for example. So you can see this one is only going to change these bars and these items colors for us. Please give a like and subscribe to catch next videos.